So much to talk about in the middle of a fascinating contest. 164 for 5 on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. I'm sure it's a kind of total that can really set up for an interesting conversation, because it's not a 190 that you think they've been batted out. It's not a 140 where you think we're going to go and chase it down. It's 164 for 5, probably the kind of total Hyderabad look like getting and asking their bowlers to defend it. But the important thing is the personnel who got them there. Just in the pre-show, we were saying, Hyderabad's all about Williamson and Warner and Pandey. And if they don't get going, then what happens? Look at that middle order, that fragile middle order, Joy. The youngsters came to the party.
Absolutely terrific news. And I think that's the whole point. Sometimes it's not just about the score. If you told Hyderabad that we'll get 164 with, our guys normally getting runs, that's Pesto, Williamson and Warner getting runs, they say, okay, good. Got it after being 67 for 4 of 11. And the guys who got those runs were Abhishek Sharma and Priyam Garg. That is so good for them. That is so important for them. It's believable, because no matter what happens in this match now, you've got two other guys who you now know can, play in the big time. And the thing is that they may always have known that Priyam Garg has the talent. But till you actually go and hit a 50 out there, you never know for yourself. Priyam Garg now knows he's IPL material. And that's very, very good news for SRH.
Yes, under 19 captain for India. And I think one thing that sums it up is the stat of the youngest combined age to have a 50 partnership. Add to that, the gentleman behind the stumps is the same age or just a little more than the combined age of Priyam Garg and Abhishek Sharma.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? And, we talked about it prior to the game starting. If you don't know until you get an opportunity. And we're not privy to all that's going on behind the scenes at Hyderabad either. So they would have seen enough talent in these young guys to say, okay, we can give them this opportunity. They're not always going to have those opportunities. They won't get a chance to bat for 9, 10, 11 overs very often. Batting at 6 and 7 or 5 and 6, sorry. But tonight they got an opportunity. They showed how good they can be. A little bit of good fortune here and there. But you don't find out about these youngsters until given those opportunities. 77 from 43 balls, 95 runs in the last 9 overs. When we talked at half-time, Gautam, we were thinking, 140, 150. We were thinking none of us with our guess would be in the game. And in the end, all three of us were kind of in the game. We were a chance from the last couple of overs. If they'd had big ones, you might have been winning it. So, that 95 in the last 9 overs really proved that this is a roundabout, where Hyderabad are going to be. I think they've scored, what have they scored? 140, 150, 160, 160 in their 4 turns at bat so far. That's about where they're at, unless Warner gets off to a flyer. But it's runs on the board again. It's an opportunity.
Yeah, and if you have a look at that, the 37 for 2, the critical part of that was it was which 2 wickets? It was 2 huge wickets. It was Warner and Williamson falling in successive deliveries, and that would break the back of most teams, especially when you've got a couple of 19-year-olds to follow. But they came, forget breaking the back. They did the opposition. They broke the back of the opposition. And I think, Joy, double celebration for you, because, yes, you're happy for the youngsters, but you've got to be enjoying the My 11 Circle badge of honor. For the third time, is it?
Yep. But I didn't think I had a chance. You're absolutely right. At 67 for 4, nobody thought any of us had a chance. But these guys just batted us into it. In fact, if they'd batted a little better in the last over, I think either Simon or you could have got it easily. But, I think the important thing out there is that it's Abhishek Sharma who starts it off. Because remember, there's not just 2 young guys there. One of these guys is traumatized because he's just managed to run out one of their most successful batsmen in what arguably I think was a bad decision by Kane Williamson. But I think he didn't get a very emphatic no from the other end as well. So I think there was a mistake on both ends. But if you're a young batsman, you're a 19-year-old and say, okay, my job is to go and bat. I just ran out. And a very angry Williamson, because he reacted emotionally, which is not normal for him. And from there to be able to turn it around, it's not Tewatia-like, because you can't be Tewatia-like every day. But it's a very, very pretty story in the middle of the act. Wonderful story.
I think, when we talk about innings progressions, it's worth looking at it in the context of not just this game, but what's gone on earlier. So let's have a look at this particular set of numbers. And I think this will tell you a story of Hyderabad batting this season in the 4 games, 1-6, 7-15, and 16-20. And have a look at what's happened today vis-a-vis what's happened in the other days. And it's happened from the youngsters, Simon.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, so you look at that 12 in the last 16-20. That's the key, isn't it? When they were in trouble, we just saw that graphic where they lost those 2 wickets, the 37, in the crucial middle stage where you're looking to really ramp up the action. And, that just says that they've got power. They've got some ability to find the boundary at the back end as well. So imagine if they get a great start. Imagine if those 2 kids come together with 3 or 4 overs to go and they've got a bit of a free license. We saw it with Abhishek Sharma. He can find the boundary. Priyam Garg, they're powerful enough. And that's the one thing about all of these young players. They might not look like they're big men, but they train hard. They power hit, they line drive, they learn how to cock those wrists and hit the big long ball. And even though they might not look big, muscly Andre Russell, Karen Pollard type characters, they've got the attributes to find the boundary on most grounds. So you're given those opportunities. We've seen a little bit of batsmanship from them tonight. They've got power as well. So if Warner, Williamson, Bairstow can get underway, and maybe that innings tonight from those 2 young men will say to David Warner, you've got a bit of a license. You can go and play some shots. You can be more aggressive. Just trust us. Trust us and we will be okay.
How long we've come, Joy, from the 32 for 8 collapse in their opening game?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm so glad you said that. Exactly that. Warner is always batting as if he cannot take a single chance. So he's batting very much well within himself because he feels there's not much there. This will actually help both Warner and Bairstow bat more freely. I think it's amazing. No matter what happens in this game, the SRH team has just opened out. You know what I mean? And opened out the way because, see, if you look at, again, I keep going back to Rajasthan, that Rahul Tewatia hitting those 5 sixes, I don't think is as significant for the rest of the tournament as Abhishek Sharma and these 2 guys getting this partnership of 72 because of the way they did it and the quality of strokes they played. It wasn't just that I've got 5 hits to the fence and just happening for me like this. These guys can replicate this on a regular basis because, some of the shots, the first square drive that he hit, you look at that and you say, this guy got class. Now I know why in a country of 1.1 billion people or 1.3 billion people, he was the captain of the under-19 team. There's got to be a reason for that. It was a class stroke.
It certainly was. Simon, let me get you in with the Chennai bowling. What would the dressing room there, Stephen Fleming and company, be sitting? How would they assess that bowling performance? Let's leave the drop catches aside for the moment.
I think probably an 8 out of 10. I don't think they bowled particularly badly. There was 1 over from Sam Curran that was overly expensive. Deepak Chahar started set the tone quite nicely right at the top. You see Curran didn't finish his spell off. I thought Shardul Thakur, barring that no ball, he bowled pretty well. The death bowling was nice and tight. Bravo, a good return, economical. Piyush Chawla was very good, didn't complete his complement, and Ravi Jadeja just a couple of fairly tidy overs. So I think they'd be saying 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 even for that bowling performance. You mentioned, briefly the catches. If they're taken, it's probably a lot better target to chase, maybe in the 140s.
Yeah, it was a strange old night for Shardul Thakur. I mean, that has to be the simplest catch put down in this particular tournament. And then he goes and bowls his first ever no ball in the history of the tournament after 707 legal deliveries.
I know. That's an amazing stat that Arun gave us. 707 deliveries, not to bowl a no ball, but to bowl there. But interesting, they started with 8 overs of pace. And I was trying to think back and say, when has Chennai started an innings of an IPL with 8 overs of pace of fast bowling as opposed to spin bowling? And this is the first time. And they've obviously looked at the surface in this. We can rely on these guys more. Somewhere they know that now, perhaps, as I said, Piyush didn't finish his quota, Ravindra Jadeja didn't finish his quota. And how many times do you see a Chennai bowling performance where not a single spinner finishes quota? So it's a harbinger of things to come, of what Dhoni thinks the surface is like and who he thinks he can depend upon right now.
Yeah, interesting one. I mean, that just Joy hit the nail on the head. But Simon, the other thing MS Dhoni had, which he may not have had in earlier games, was the luxury of going to different bowlers. The fact that he could have his spinners not finishing their quota is because he could turn to a DJ Bravo, because he could have Shardul Thakur, Deepak Chahar there. And yes, you weren't happy with Hazelwood being left out, but he had the options.
Yeah, he had the option. I mean, the only reason Hazelwood's going to be left out for Bravo, so they still would have had the same options, in my opinion. But it just maybe gave you that little backup to the guys at the top and another option at the death. Although Bravo did bowl a very good spell and was economical without picking up a wicket, so it's a better looking side. They've just got to figure out that batting lineup and that batting order, and they've got to get runs out of the top three. They're a little bit like, to be honest, they're a little bit like Sunrisers. Yes, there is experience in Bravo, Jadeja through that middle and lower order, but they do require runs from Watson, from Faf du Plessis, from Raidu at the top, and if they get those runs, they can be successful.
Yeah, it looks like there's enough batting. We don't know where Sam Curran will bat with the way he's performed. He might just be pushed up somewhere, but all the way down there. And we know, Joy, that if it comes down to that, the likes of Deepak Chahar and Shardul Thakur, more than handy with the bat.
No, absolutely. This team bats till 11. There's no doubt about that.
And PC.
I mean,
PC.
Yeah. Shardul can hit it with the best of them. PC has, won an IPL final by hitting Mitch Johnson for a 6, which it's not that easy to do. So, no, this team can bat, but you're right. I think actually the weaker in the middle. That middle, if Dhoni has to bat at 3, 3 as in 5. Dhoni has to bat at 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't look the kind of finishers that they used to be maybe 5 years back. And that's possibly their danger. Funnily enough, I thought that there were a lot of misfields and, overthrows and dropped catches. But I thought they didn't look that bad on the field otherwise. I mean, they were covering ground, they were moving around, they were agile enough. Obviously, somewhere, Stephen Fleming, we had to go and look in the field, look as if you belong. So they've tried. And, overthrows can happen, drop catches, you can't really, they're not a function of the amount of practice. Those things just happen, once on those days. But this team looks as if they've worked for the last 6 days to look sharper and better in the field. Certainly not lethargic. Lethargic is not the word I'd use.
The question is, have they worked enough on the whole mental approach to a run chase where they've been falling behind the 8 ball by the time we reach the 10th over? It's not that imposing a total, gentlemen. So I'm going to finish with both of you. Are any of you getting on the Tour de France? Any of you wearing a yellow jersey tonight?
Look, it has to be Watson that gets them off to a start. If he fails, I can't see them, getting to that position where they've got such a good start that the middle order and the lower order can cruise through. So he's got to get them off to a great start, and that's the.
Joy?
See, my thing is that I genuinely believe that this SRH bowling is a good bowling, but other than Rashid Khan, they don't have an enforcer bowler. That's my only problem. So even when they have an advantage, they don't have that bowler. They'll go. There's no Rabada in their ranks. No one guy that they'll go to and say, "Go and get 2 wickets for us." And that I think will be their weakness out here. If Bhuvaneshwar does not get wickets up front, and if Rashid Khan is off pace, those 2 bowlers are critical. If they can see out those 2 bowlers, or if Bhuvaneshwar is not as sharp as he normally is, I think it's advantage Chennai.
All right. So all I can say in conclusion, it's a very reluctant yellow jersey that both my guests have worn, with an if for a Shane Watson and an if for a Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, which means it's going to be a good contest. We'll see you in the 10th over Cricbuzz Combox. It's been another exciting discussion on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.